Welcome to episode number 24 of Shift Inside. And today we have a guest. Her name is Alyssa. She created Voice of Her. And as the name suggests, she helps women reclaim their voice. And this discussion honestly has been so powerful because of the topic at first, but also because of how intimate for me this is, because when we speak about the voice is a very, very intimate thing, and not everyone is owning their voice. And in fact, there are quite some people, especially women, men as well, who are muting their voices, who have big blocks. And in this episode, we speak about the five main factors, the five main blocks that are muting women in their businesses, in their lives, relationships. And also, of course, we share, like she shares amazing nuggets and very powerful tools on how you can unmute yourself and really claim your voice again and claim your power through your voice, because the voice is such a reflection of what's happening deep down inside of you. And if you've been wondering why you haven't been that confident or successful, well, observe your voice. Like, the voice is such an amazing portal to realize, like, it's an inner reflection. And before we start, before I let you with her, I also want to share a personal story about my voice, because you seeing me here or hearing me here, it feels like it was almost impossible years ago. And I shared that already on this platform, that when I was a kid, I was extremely shy. And it's funny because I really resonate with Alyssa's stories, because we lived something similar in the sense that we were both very introverted, shy, always had to hide behind people. I was even called a ghost by a group of friends. Crazy. And now I'm here, sharing my voice, owning it. And from episode to episode, I can also see how much I'm owning my voice and claiming it. And the more I do this deep inner work, the more I feel free to express myself. And this is basically what this whole episode is about. It's packed with so much information and juice, and already I can tell you this is going to create change in you. And my recommendation is that you listen to this episode with your heart, that you really feel in your bones, in your body, what it triggers in you and what happens. Like, this is a full story. This is a little adventure that you're taking in the voice kingdom. I'm making that up. So yeah, I let you enjoy. It was beautiful, it was light, it was powerful. I really love this conversation, and I let you enjoy the ride. Hello, welcome Alyssa, welcome everyone. This is Yeah, I'm super welcome, super welcome, super excited to have you here. Really happy. We're both a bit like, I'm a bit tired, a bit sick. This is already the second podcast where it's happening, but I'm like, let's still do it. And it's funny because I have something with my, with my throat, and we're talking about voice today. So I'm like, okay, sure, it had to be. Can't be a better way. So basically, Alyssa is coming here. Her company is Voice of Her. And as the name suggests, she helps women also with her voice. She's going to introduce herself much better than I will. But today, what we're going to speak about is the five main root blocks that are muting women, basically, and not just in business, but also in life in general. And she's going to speak about how to heal them, free yourself from that, and ultimately get success. Doesn't have to be just abundance and in terms of money and finances, but success in general, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I let you introduce yourself at first.
Thank you, my love. Thank you. And thank you for having me here. It is so lovely to be here and share this message. So, I work with ambitious women and female entrepreneurs, leaders, speakers, visionaries, creatives. And I work with them to help them go quantum with their voice. So, that's the term. We're going quantum with the voice, the energy, the presence, because our voice is our main manifestation center. If you know human design, it's the main manifesting center. And we are essentially negotiating our reality all the time in how we communicate. But it's not just the spoken voice, it's the voice that wants to come out from within. And so I'm leading my clients to make real impact with that voice, real money, build wealth with their voice, and freedom, whatever that freedom looks like for them. A lot of my clients, they have missions that they want to bring in, or they've got that mission and they want to be uncensored with that. They want to be unapologetic. But fundamentally, it is about bringing your gift as a woman to the world shamelessly, unapologetically, and playing big with that vision. And underneath all the work, we do the public speaking skills, but we go beyond that. We do the voice ownership. It's communication fitness, feminine communication fitness, energetics, and presence mastery, really owning who you are in this world and taking up creative space.
Oh, I love that. I really love that. And I feel like this is so needed because we are in a time where there is so much change, there is a big transition happening, and we feel like more women are taking up the space, owning their voice, stepping into their power. And I feel like this is so needed because I truly believe, and not just because I'm a woman, but that when we step more into our feminine power, and we go more into a feminine leadership down here on earth, I do believe things will be better off. I don't know what you think about that, but I see you
Yeah,
nodding already.
absolutely.
Like,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I know. I know. The world has been in trouble for so long because it's too heavy in the masculinity, and not just in masculinity, the healthy version, it's the toxic version. So more and more women coming forward, and there's been huge changes, but we're still on quite a path when it comes to equality. That's just the truth of it. And feeling safe to bring your voice forward in the world, it's a block still, and unfortunately as women. So first of all, glossophobia, the fear of public speaking, the fear of putting yourself forward, whether it's socially or in any scenario when you're speaking up in front of people, it's like number one top fear of the world. And studies show that women have more anxiety with this than men. So as women, we're actually handling a lot more in the way of blockages that are inherent, we're born with. We're born with, like ancestrally throughout history. And mainly that vibration is shame. It's shame. Shame, fear, and guilt. They're the main voice blockers, and they're right at the bottom. I don't know if you know the work of Dr. R. Hawkins, but the vibrational scale, the emotional consciousness scale, shame, guilt, and fear are right at the bottom of the scale.
Yeah,
So
the
when we're in this
lowest
space,
frequency you can have.
low frequency, and when we're in this space, you making the life that you want to make happen for yourself is really difficult. You're so contracted, energy is murky, people aren't magnetized towards you, and I'm not just talking clients, I'm not just talking bringing in opportunities, I'm talking people, like bringing in aligned people, manifesting your best relationships, and then next to that, creating opportunity, attracting clients, customers, whatever your business is. So we are handling so much as women. And often what happens when my clients come to me, unfortunately, a lot of the work that starts to reveal itself is in sexual abuse.
Mm,
And I don't know any woman who's not been sexually harassed in some way, and so this just feeds into the shame. And if you've got abuse in your systems, then whoa, like that's a
that's
lot of shame.
heavy.
Yeah, that's really, really heavy. And if it's not that, it's having dealt with narcissism in relationships, or having dealt with the abandonment wound, having the abandonment wound. So there is a lot to play into it. When we're born, the three things that we want to be, and right until the day we die, is seen, heard, and felt. Every
Seen,
human,
heard, and felt.
yeah, seen, heard,
Seen,
and
heard, and
felt.
felt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
of course. Yeah.
we want to feel understood. And so when you're blocked and even expressing what your truth is, you're not going to be any of those things. No one is going to see you. No one is going to feel or hear you. And I often say, the world meets you when you meet your voice, but to meet your voice, you have to meet yourself. And if you don't meet yourself, you don't meet your voice, and the world will not even hear you. And so your
Mm,
existence will feel very much like you're being violated all the time. If you're not expressing your desires and your boundaries, and people are just walking all over you, and you're not really saying who you are and what you need, you're going to feel violated. You're going to feel very frustrated. You're going to feel very, very unseen.
And do you have also women coming to you? I mean, I guess if they're coming to you, they've realized that there is something about them where they don't allow themselves to actually step in their power and their voice. But I also, it's not that I assume, but I see that as well. Sometimes those women don't even realize that this is happening, like the loop you're describing is happening, and it starts to become very easy to fall into the trap of, oh, this person is guilty, the planet, the world is guilty, the society is guilty for me feeling that way or being that way, instead of getting back to, okay, my ownership, like, taking ownership of, well, maybe I haven't allowed myself, and that's why, because I can't allow myself, well, people are literally stepping on my feet. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really the responsibility of every woman, I believe, is to step into that ownership and give permission. Give yourself permission because no one's going to give it to you. Give
Mm,
yourself permission because when you do that, what you do is you set up safety for other women to do that. And so, yeah, often I find myself in rooms, and usually it is a very small percentage, if any at all, of women who are actually owning their space and owning their voices. For the majority of it, it is a very contracted environment. And we're so used to playing that. We're so used to being in the small model and being triggered when anyone else is in the bigger model
oh gosh,
that
so
that we
true.
don't even know it's that play. Yeah, so there's I talk about vocal consciousness a lot because you remember when breath work became a thing and
Hmm.
everyone was like, what's this breath work thing? You know, there's no way I'm not breathing properly. I can't not breathe. Like I have to be breathing. And then people learned the modality and they were like, whoa, okay, yeah, I am not breathing properly. For
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
the voice space is that. That's
Oh,
exactly what it
interesting.
is.
How, like, what
Yeah.
is the parallel? Because I could really see with the breathwork, like, oh my God, I still have stuff to learn, but I'm breathing, like, this is my, my innate gift and ability,
Yeah.
but still I need to learn on that. So how do you see the parallel with the voice?
The awareness around what is coming through this portal shows you
Mm,
everything that is happening within you. So your voice, I
mm,
say often, your voice is your vibe.
goosebumps,
Your voice
goosebumps.
is your vibe. It exposes your belief system. It exposes your emotional state. Every word, language that you use, the tone, the volume, the flexibility versus inflexibility, the pace,
The
like
trembles, or,
the
yeah.
trembles, the shakes. Often most women, they're in the underactive throat chakra space where they're not speaking enough and they're very passive. But sometimes women can be in the overactive space and they're actually speaking really fast and they're over speaking and they're not listening because they're overcompensating.
Hmm.
And so what that kind of side of it is that women are afraid to take up space and actually hold that space. So they're feeling like they need to rush because they're not interesting or because they don't get to have much of a
Oh
say here. Like they're
gosh.
rushing through
Oh
it.
gosh, I see myself. I realized like this is a pattern of me, and I feel like I had to learn how to slow down, give myself the space. And the funny thing, I mean, it's not that fun actually, but when when you really rush yourself because you feel like you're not interesting enough, then
Yeah.
actually people will tend to really cut you. Like you're just giving the space to people because they can feel, even if they're not aware, they don't have this emotional intelligence, subconsciously they're also reacting to
Yeah.
you already being triggered. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy again.
It
Yeah.
is. It really is. And if we're talking in business, si- the silent business killer, it's not your strategy, it's not the algorithm, it's not your offer. It is often your voice. It's how you
Mm,
speak or don't speak to the frequency of your work. It's how you
mm,
undervalue your work or don't show up and get visible. Because voice and visibility come hand in hand. To be visible, you have to be voiced on social media or in the room, wherever your business
mm,
is.
mm, mm.
And so it's a silent killer. And that's why I talk about the vocal consciousness. Like this space is how we communicate with the world. It's how we literally create our reality and everything that's happening within us. Energy, how energy works. Everything from the bottom of the body, it comes up here and it comes out of the throat. So that flow of energy, this is the place in which it flows out into the world. So if all of that stuff isn't sorted and isn't being seen to and healed and it's being neglected, that is literally going to come out as shaky and
Mhm.
untrustworthy. So it's the final gateway.
Yeah, I see. And this is like depending on how it comes, you're like, oh, I still have work to do. Shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, I see. That's like an amazing reflection. So that's like you mentioned the first blockage, right?
So no, we haven't gone into the
Not
blocks. You want to
yeah.
go
Oh
into
my
the blocks?
God. Oh yeah, let's do that.
So firstly, it's important to know that when a woman isn't in total ownership of her voice, there are strong physical symptoms that occur. And I want to go through the symptoms first so we can start to
Yeah.
recognize, okay, is this showing
Yeah,
up for
let's
me?
go. Let's
Build that
go.
awareness. So sometimes it can be a lump in
Oh,
the
and
throat.
just wait, I invite also our audience, and this is what I will do, but just observe within yourself. Like, let's be a bit honest here with ourselves, and instead of just hearing, like, okay, blah, 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 let's see, like, let's listen with our body, with our heart, and to really see, like, just let's see each other properly. Like you have the space now and just see if something ticks, right? If something resonates.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Yeah, radical honesty, isn't it? It's practicing radical honesty and knowing
Yeah,
that anything that triggers you is something that you want to lean into because that's where your transformation is.
exactly. Ah, yes, love that episode.
So symptoms. Okay, so symptoms: lump in the throat when you're drawn to speaker, and it can be. Bear in mind, public speaking isn't just on a stage in front of hundreds of people. Public speaking is any scenario when you're speaking to more than one person, right? So even if you're doing a podcast, you're public speaking. It might be just one on one, but that's going to go out to many people. Even if you're just if you're with three friends, that's a crowd. More than three is a crowd, right? So or three is a crowd. So lump in the throat is a very common symptom. Nervous system shutdown, complete like paralyzed, frozen, immobile. Contraction, so or contractional censorship, so you're constantly like pulling back, holding back, not saying the thing that wants to come through. You're playing small, not sharing your wins, for example, with friends because you're afraid of triggering or you're afraid of coming across as too much and too big and too happy.
Mm-hmm.
It's coughing fits. So often, I used to teach yoga, and that's where this whole path started for me. And whenever I got them in shavasana, I could tell who was vocally blocked because the coughing would come out, and it would get real bad. And it's because your body is needing to release that energy, and it's coming through the coughs or sometimes people burp. People are burping a lot, like that's a
Okay.
thing. Energy release. Dry mouth, jaw tension. So when you're very locked in the jaw, having a sore throat. So when you get ill, or if you have a sore throat often, things like laryngitis, and when you get ill and the throat is the first place that you feel it, it's a sign that there could be something going on with a throat chakra blockage.
I used to have so much of that being younger. Yeah.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
other symptoms too.
yeah. And
Same.
I've had clients, and this is quite common as well, where people have vocal issues, like things on their vocal cords, but there's like they don't know why they have it. It's not come on from overusing their voice. And in some cases I had a client who had this growth that was quite unexplainable. And she went on I used to run I might bring it back actually, Voice of Her Academy, and she went through that. And then within that time when she was in there, the growth went away and the doctor was like, what the hell?
What
So all
happened?
these, yeah, like all these things that anything to do with the throat, you want to pay attention to it. Really, really pay attention to it. If we're speaking mentally, the signs are, and emotionally, it's just having constant self-doubt, people pleasing, treading on eggshells, really walking carefully around people, and again, not wanting to be too much. It's having that constant theme of fear playing out in your life. Like, oh, if I do the thing, what if I'm misjudged? Or if I show up online, what if I'm not going to be received very well? What if I'm going to get criticized? It's not being able to connect with people authentically and really feel that deep connection. Like small talk is actually a blockage of the throat chakra. Like you're stopping people from getting deep into your systems. You're stopping that deep talk from happening and that real connection and that
Interesting.
relatability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For women specifically, passive communication. So words like if they're in your vocabulary a lot, things like, oh yeah, I think, maybe, and word fillers, like things like that, and you're just, yeah, and you're coming in and you're just very, very passive. You're not so direct with what you're saying. You struggle to be assertive with what you're saying.
Just listen to my previous episodes and you'll hear the
And
like.
we're all guilty. We're all guilty. Sometimes I run sessions and like, when I'm thinking, I say and I know not to say but it's like I obviously subconsciously feel like I have to do something to take up the space whilst I'm thinking. So now, like you always, it's a reminder. Everything is a reminder. You often forget these things, and it is a practice.
Exactly.
Another thing. And this is the thing, what I teach my clients is no one's the perfect communicator. Like no one is the
Definitely.
perfect communicator.
Definitely. We
It's
walk
just
each
about,
other home.
that's it. And it's about improving and becoming aware of it. Something that I've been seeing online recently, that I've actually made a whole document about now, is disempowering language when female entrepreneurs are showing up to talk about their work. The common thing that they start with is, oh, I'm just coming on here to say, or I'm just going to be really quick here. And it's like, oh, that just takes away all of your, like, energy. And it's like, oh, that just takes away all of your, like, your, like, 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 ability to take up space. Like
Oh
all
my
of you are
God,
only taking up
yes.
space.
Oh, I see
You-
myself in that.
right? It's like you're not just doing anything. You're actually coming on here to say something that is extremely potent and people need to hear.
They don't
Yeah.
just need to hear, they need to hear.
Yeah, yeah. And so that like again, being apologetic, just be
Mm.
and if you're someone, I had a client who was saying sorry all the time. She was incredible, like she was verbally sorry all the time for things that she didn't need to be sorry about. And what that says is, I don't get to take up space in this world and everything I'm doing is wrong. And I'm sorry,
Mm.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. So that's another really strong symptom. Avoiding conflict at all costs is another thing, you know, not expressing your truth in case you get a reaction. And this usually happens in our relationships. And hiding behind others. I used to be the hider. As a kid, I was super introverted. I was very, very shy. I was bullied at school and that, yes, hello.
Hello, hello,
And
friend.
so, you know, I had a best friend that I hid behind all the time. And it was because of that journey I wanted to be a performer, and a musical director said to me, he pulled me up to do a solo, singing solo, and I was so frightened I couldn't do it on my own. So I pulled up my friend and we did it together. And he said, "You just stick with your friend. You just stick with your friend, dear." And I was about 10 or maybe 10 years old, and I remember it just hitting me so hard, as in, I'm not going to go anywhere with my voice if I keep needing this other person to sing over me. And so
Mm.
that's when I became really obsessed with finding what was my singing voice at the time, but really
Mm.
coming out of the shadows and really depending on myself, because no one is coming to me. No one is coming to hand me the mic. No one is coming to hand me the part. No one is coming to hand me the business or get me the podcast. We've got to step forward and we've got to come out from
For
hiding.
ourselves, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they're the main symptoms. Now, the 5 root blocks, let's get into that.
Ah,
Are we
who is
ready?
ready for it? Who is ready for it? I'm really ready for it. Okay, let's go.
So, yeah, as I said, glossophobia is one of the world's top fears, you know? So, the blocks that are different for women, they are different. Like, men won't even understand them. So, and this is why I specifically work with women, because I am a woman, I understand those blocks. But it's not to say that men don't also have their own blocks. I just want to speak to
Mm.
that before we get into this. So, number one of the 5 root blocks is, of course, as we expect, personal trauma.
Mm.
If you've experienced any kind of, unfortunately, sexual abuse is common with the voice space, right? As I've said before, but any kind of abuse, emotional abuse, as in narcissistic type relationships, physical abuse in any way, like any type of abuse can rip your voice away. It can have you feeling very unsafe in being expressed. And all of what the abuse targets in the body is really the lower chakras. So we're working with blocks in the lower part of the body. And when we're healing the voice, it very much is a bottom to top approach. So if you take me, for example, I was trained, the reason why I bring this work into my coaching business today is because I come from professional acting background. So I was in the West End in London, which is the equivalent to America's Broadway. So I had and I was a leading role, leading lady, and I had a 6.5 career there. I had all the skills to use my voice and own the stage. But whenever it came to being heard as me publicly, I ran a mile. I ran a mile. I did
Mm.
not want to do it. So when I became a coach, I realized, aha, I've got to heal here. I've got to do something here, because now I'm stepping into leadership, right? You know yourself, you have to own your voice. You have to
Oh
step up to
yeah.
leadership.
You have
You're
to
usually
walk your
managing.
talk basically. Otherwise
Yeah,
people just can feel there is something off. Yeah. So
yeah.
true.
Energy does not lie. So
Never.
authenticity is super important, and clarity and
Hmm.
confidence. So what I took myself through really is the method that I do today. It's healing the throat wound. So in my case, you know, I had all those communication skills on the surface, like all the strategies and the skills and the techniques, which are amazing, and that's what I teach today. But if the stuff underneath isn't healed, that the ability to enjoy showing up is not there, the comfortability is not there.
And it's
And we
almost like there is no connection between the surface and all the strategy and deep inside. So it's like not fully embodied. It's like as if the full connection is not there yet. So you miss out so much potential.
Yeah, that's it. So we are only as confident as what we've healed, really. So
Simple.
personal trauma. Yeah, personal trauma. And that's everything that's happened to you in your lifetime. So let's go on to the next block, which is ancestral trauma.
Oh, I was about to say, well, in this lifetime, not talking about ancestral past lives.
Yeah, yeah. You
Yeah.
know, generational trauma, I believe, I have a poor memory, but I'm pretty sure I recently read it goes up to 6 generations back now. We're
7.
working with
Usually
7. It
7.
is 7.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's a lot to unpack, right? So that shame, if you only have to know how your grandma or your nan's life was to understand the shit that we're carrying.
Usually, yeah, this is
Yeah,
repeating. Yeah.
yeah. So if we are willing to really connect with ancestors, and whether that's through your own spiritual practice, and I mean, for me, sacred dance is a really big one. I have had visions of my ancestors and understood fully what was at play there.
Mm.
But also speaking to the women in my family and understanding their journey and then their parents' journey, and the all like going back as far as I can has been
Mm.
super super helpful for me, because with the voice we do tend to carry a lot of it is actually not ours. Basically it is just throughout history. I think 10,000 years of the patriarchy, like all of history in is stuck in our body
Yeah, the
basically.
DNA, and you can feel it on your shoulders. Also, like when we go through something major, like as a whole humanity, you can really feel like,
Yeah.
is this just me? And also when we are in the coaching, healing business, when we're like those sensitive beings, we carry even more. Like it's not that we carry more, but we're so sensitive to it that you can really carry extra weight that is definitely not yours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So really addressing that ancestral trauma and not neglecting that.
Mhm.
And I say don't neglect it because for me on the healing journey, that was one of the last things I came to.
Hmm.
And when I did, oh,
Whoa.
it was profound. It was absolutely profound. And
Now I
it gave
understand.
me answers. Yeah, yeah. Next root block is the subconscious programming of the collective, which we've briefly spoken about. But this is what
Mhm.
is happening in regards to the feminine, and how we've been suppressed. And again, I've said that this is changing, but we have quite a long way to go. And even in our lifetime, things won't get to where they need to be.
I hope they will.
How
I
old are
hope they
you?
will. I'm 28.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit older than you. I'm 30, 34. I always think I'm
Oh, you're
35.
so
Yeah.
much older. Yes, sure.
Yeah, but really, realistically speaking, for things to really balance out, if they ever do, you're talking a lot longer than our existence for sure. It's a
Mm.
very slow progress. It has been a very, very, very slow progress,
Mm.
and this is why so many women are still struggling to actually take up space and actually not be contracted. And yes, business helps you come away from that contraction, because you realize in order to make things happen for yourself,
Mm.
you do have to put yourself out there in a whole new way.
Exactly. And I feel like there are also like people going, like women going to the other extreme and thinking that they need to step into toxic masculinity actually. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is such an important thing to address, because sometimes they're like, yeah, in order to be confident, well, what's the model I have? Oh, yeah, the very toxic masculine. So I guess this should be it,
Yeah,
Oh, no, not
yeah, and
really. But I feel
that is
like
a whole
it's part
topic.
of the learning and the process as the whole humanity as well.
Yeah, and you know what, we get to also use aspects of masculine communication. It's like with
Mm.
everything, there wants to be a balance. Like if we're too feminine in our communication, we're actually very, very soft and very passive, as I've said.
Mm.
And actually, some of my clients, so I work a bit in the corporate world as well, and what we work on there is helping women to not have to take on the masculine language within the corporate world, because they feel they
Mm.
have to in
That's
order to be
amazing.
taken seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have to do that. And actually, what they bring as a woman, that compassion, that queen like energy, that queen like leadership, that empathy. I mean, what we have as women are two really strong superpowers. That's intuition and the ability to connect, to build rapport very, very quickly, because we are empathetic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
we feel. So
we do. We do.
yeah, so, I mean, so you could go as far to say that this is like most of society, especially in the corporate world, it's very much on masculine communication.
Mm-hmm.
But even society still is very much on that too. You know,
Yeah,
I
and when you go out of it, it's like it's crazy because you feel like almost like there's all this shame around like going into, your more embodied feminine energy because now
yeah.
it's seen as like, weakness or like, it's being shamed. Like, oh, so you don't stand for your sisters? Well, what do you mean? I do actually. What do you do?
And this
Yeah.
is why coming together in women's circles feels so powerful, right?
Oh
And
gosh,
and when we're
yeah,
in women's
goosebumps.
circles, we feel unstoppable. And then what happens? You remove yourself from the circle and you go back to your male partner, or you go back to your family who are maybe, I don't know, you've got brothers, mainly brother, and then you're just like squished back down because they don't know they're doing it. They don't know that the language of, of society is masculine. And
Mm.
something that I've had to do a lot in this work is understand where my dad and my brother have suppressed my mum and my voice, because it's
Mm.
been so much at play, and they're great people. I've not had it bad with my dad and my brother at all in comparison to so many women I've worked with, but it's how men only know how to show up towards women.
Do you
And
have
we
specific examples? Of
well
like
I
words,
mean
vocabularies, like situations, so that other women can see like, oh my God, this was happening actually, just to
yeah.
bring some light. Yeah.
Yeah, not necessarily specific language. It's just lack of respect for women's voices. So often you may get the space to be heard, but they won't hear you. So, and again, I love my partner so much, but this is just something that's so inherently in him as a man. When I met my partner, shared so much information around what we could be doing, and what he has CFS, which is a chronic illness, and what he could be doing to heal his illness, and all the things. Like, I was like throwing in all my consciousness work and the world that I'm completely in, which he hasn't been in, and nothing happened. He listens to a podcast by Stephen Bartlett. I don't know, do you know who Stephen Bartlett is?
No, but I see I see it coming.
He just has to hear it from a man's voice, and it's like landed. Boom, it's in. And I pull this
Sure.
up with him often, and he can't help it. It's just how ingrained it is into men to like not hear or value and underappreciate women's voices. It just is the case. And you could be a
Crazy.
man
Even
who's
of their own partner. That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So we are, again, you want to be conscious of that, because it's like our responsibility, and especially when we have our son, if we have kids and they're boys, it's our responsibility to train them differently, because it's no hate on the men that aren't, even if men are doing the work, it's just so embedded in them. Like, I'm not blaming men for this. I'm not, it's just how
Mm.
society has been run. We've all got our
Mm.
programming. We're all coming to this world with a lot.
Yeah, it's like,
And
when the wheel is like running already very fast and you try to stop it, there is still like a bit of momentum. So it takes
yeah.
time to actually very like stop. Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing with like in your partnership, so what you can think about is your man really is there to, like, the healthy masculine is to be able to hold you in your emotional capacity, right? It's because you're the emotional vessel, and so are they, but part of their job is to be that container for you, because you're going on these hormonal rides, for you to really just be your emotional true self. If
Hmm.
they can't do that, if they are not creating a safe space for your expression and you're feminine, then that is going to block your throat chakra. You're not going to feel safe expressing your truth. So, things like that to pay attention to. We want to be able to create a very, very safe space between the masculine and the feminine. As a woman, this is what I need. This is what I desire. These are my boundaries. Can you hold me in that?
Mm.
Because if you can't, let's work on this together. I need that. And if you're not willing to do that growth, then this isn't aligned for me, because I need to be in my full expression.
Yeah.
So it's like it's kind of like a training.
It is, it is. And also like it's important to remind ourselves like this is one of the sentence I like the most with like choosing the right partner. It's
Yeah.
like don't fall in love with a potential. You don't have to
Yeah.
do all the
Oh, yeah.
work. This is such a good one because sometimes, we have also like especially being in the healing industry, like, the saver syndrome, and you're like, oh yeah, I can help that person, but to what cost? I don't know if you did that, but I personally did, and I drained myself a lot. I also lost myself in some of those partnerships. And so I feel like it's so important. Like, yes, there are not so many men who are already, embodied in that work, but I feel like it's so worth it to already, look for the person who did the work. Like you don't have, like it's nice as a woman to participate for our sisters and, help
Mhm.
raise, educate and stuff, but it is also, it doesn't have to be a pressure and over job.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. Well said. Yeah, really, really relevant. And I think that it's funny because you say that. I actually read that somewhere the other day. Knowing what you actually need from a relationship before you even put yourself out there is what is needed to be like put down on paper. Like know what you don't want and know what you want. And again, like I manifested my man, Stuart, in 3 days. And a huge part of that was because
Ooh.
I spoke into existence what I wanted. Like I proclaimed, this is what I want and this is what I do not want. And I prayed to God and I prayed to the universe and I asked, like I verbally asked for him. And in 3 days he arrived.
Ta-da! Was he delivered with like a little package and stuff? The cosmic package. That's
It's
cool.
funny because we tell this story, and now currently my fella is on a men's retreat. He's doing the work, and he's got startups, and he's super entrepreneurial,
Oh my
and
God. Where do
yeah.
you
So
find like similar similar men?
well,
Where
actually,
are they?
I found him on Bumble, and that was a whole other thing because it's quite, these dating apps, a lot of people struggle with them. And I had struggled for years. And again, I was there like flicking from side to side. And
Ding ding
and I
ding.
was like, this is how I'm putting myself out there. And I just said out loud, he is on here. He is on here. And then there he was. So again, I'm just like, it's literally like the 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 communication piece for me has been profound in my business and my relationship and my life and just everything that I've created for myself. It
Hmm.
is so overlooked, the power of communicating with the universe what you actually desire. It is
Mm.
just so overlooked because the
So
reality is
true.
if you can't say what you want, how do you think you're going to get it?
Exactly, and there are so many people who are limiting themselves in dreaming big, they because of like at the core this is really all about worthiness, seeing your value, and this is so important because there like sometimes actually people confuse like they think they are not clear, they think they're lost when in fact they just don't dare to look inside what they really really want because they don't value themselves enough. This is so
That's it.
crazy. Yeah,
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 yeah.
and
And
they don't.
reflected in the voice then.
Yeah, and it's that not allowing, not giving permission to. Another thing that women do battle is thinking that the dream that they do have is actually their voice, and it's not. It's the voice of influence that they've grown up around, or sometimes it's a partner's voice, sometimes it's their tribe's voice, and it's not actually what they want.
Mm,
So one of the first things that I do with my client at the beginning of their journey of my program Own Your Voice is we make sure that the voices that are coming through in that vision are actually theirs. And if
so
it's not,
important.
yeah, and if it's not, whose voice is it? And often it's father's voice.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, yeah,
Because we
yeah,
have
to
all these
make the
voices
clearing.
playing out all the time, like that inner voice, the fear, that's the voice of someone that has raised you and put their print on you, basically. They
Hmm.
projected on you.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I can also, I don't know if you did Vipassana. I feel like every episode I'm talking about Vipassana.
I think I've done like maybe like once or
Yeah,
twice.
it's like like the 10 days retreat, and I had to realize, there is the voice we identify with, but when after 3 days, when it gets super quiet, you realize all the other voices that are behind, and then you realize like there is so much going on up there. What you thought was one voice is actually, like it's kind of crazy, but I could feel how a back thought, like a voice that was super small, could influence the one in the front. So this is what made me realize how can I trust the voice I hear in the front if I have no idea what's happening up, in the background?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And how
so
long did it
quiet.
take for those? How long did it take for that to happen for you?
To realize like all those voices.
Yeah.
Well, in this meditation retreat, after 3 days of like being super quiet and having
3
this
days.
like
Yeah.
the first voice like a bit quieter, then I
Yeah.
could realize like there is more coming. And it comes in terms of visuals, impressions, ideas. Sometimes it's a voice, sometimes just a feeling. And the idea is that you just realize how everything is interconnected and how
Yeah.
all those sensations influence how you act in the end, what you
Yeah.
say. Well, we
Yeah.
couldn't speak in Vipassana, but what you
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
yourself in your head then, because here you're allowed. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Super
It
interesting.
is so powerful. I mean, I often say to client, and it's a practice of mine, I'll do like a day of silence. I'll do a day of silence. And I've not struggled with silence because I was so introverted as a young person. And then even now I get my energy from being on my own. And so I don't ever struggle with just having days where I don't speak at all. But
Yes.
a lot of people don't, right? A lot of people are constantly in that flow state where they're talking
Mm,
all the time and they can't hear what's going on. So yeah, really powerful. So coming back to, we got two more blocks left.
yeah,
The,
I was
the
about to ask.
yeah, the next block is cultural, societal, and religious programming, which does it links very closely with the subconscious programming of the collective.
Yeah.
But the reason why I picked this out to be different is because everyone's background is completely different. So your cultural background is not going to be like mine. Your societal, if you're religious, I mean, in religious texts, women's voices are pretty non-existent. So if you've been raised in religion, then that is often probably the biggest blocker for your voice if you've got a block on the voice. I've worked with women from the Middle East, and it's fascinating to understand the level of blocks that are there in comparison to my culture and the religions that I've kind of learned about at school but not really been like immersed in. Whoa, we're talking different worlds entirely, but the blocks are huge, absolutely huge. So just really going into what is your background and how does that maybe compare to people that you know who are powerful communicators. Like can you identify exactly what is holding you back and what other people maybe are not being held back by, and sort of when you do that you can start to awaken to, okay, there is a different way of doing things, and women's voices do have a place. You can start opening up that. And the final block is conditioned behaviors and patterns. Obviously, what we've picked up from our guardians, our mother's ability to be heard, our father's ability to let her be heard, and our parents' ability to create safe space for females to be heard, for your emotions as a child, for your emotions to be actually seen, heard, and felt. What did you experience growing up is huge. I'm sure you
So
know this, but a lot
huge.
of the work, it goes back to your most developing years, which are ages 0 to 6 years old. And you're still developing after 6 years old. It's just that that's the most sensitive period where you're super receptive and influenced.
Yeah, definitely, because your brain is in different waves, like the theta brain waves, which makes you just like a sponge. You know, when we say that kids are like sponges, it's literally like you pick up everything and you have no filters. And then it goes even up, like from 7 to 14 years old. Your brain is still in that state. You see that there are things you don't want to receive, but you don't yet have the means to stop that from coming in. So
Yeah.
imagine 14 years to deal with, plus what happens in the belly of your mom. There is
Yeah.
also a
Oh,
lot around
yep.
that.
Yep.
Never
Yep.
stops. Yeah.
And it's interesting as well because, we're talking about the inner work here, the blocks. But actually, if we look at the voice, if I'm going to the side of what the voice sounds like, and I mean a lot of women hate the sound of their voice. Our voice isn't actually our voice. It's what we've picked up through habit of those communicating around us. So when we want to change our voice and we want to show up differently and communicate differently, what we often experience is people around us are like, oh, you sound different. It sounds inauthentic. But actually, we don't have there. It's impossible to be inauthentic with your voice because everything that you, in the way that you speak, has been picked up from someone else.
Mm-mm. Mm.
So a lot of what I do at the beginning again of the journey is I get my clients to explore their pitch and their range and their way of speaking to come away from alienating any sound that is different and actually go towards embracing all of the voice and actually knowing that we have so much available to us in this instrument. It truly is an instrument. And that how we decide to use it is what impacts our clients. And it's what either regulates someone's nervous system or dysregulates it or triggers it. For example,
Mm.
if we're like super harsh with the voice and we're coming in like this, like that's an instant trigger. That is not, you're not going to influence or inspire with that. You're not going
Yeah,
to
I'm
really
gonna
give
be
the
like,
response
stop
you want.
record.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're like super like apologetic and like, oh, I don't know if I should be taking up space here.
I
And
can feel the trigger. It's
it's
crazy.
uncomfortable. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really uncomfortable. And again, so it comes back to the energy flow, but also it is not what you say, it's how you are saying it.
Mm.
It really
Yeah.
is how you're saying it. And so that coming
Yeah.
back to the being aware of how you are speaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is what I say all the time. It's like in with so many things in life, it's not the what, it's the how. It doesn't
Yeah.
really matter what you do in the end, it's the intention behind, it's the energy behind. That makes the whole freaking difference.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
And
literally so
intention is,
important.
again, like intention comes from the heart space. And so if
Mm-hmm.
the heart space is blocked, the throat chakra is blocked because it's just above. And the main three areas for the voice block to get unblocked that we work on is the solar, heart, and throat. That being said, the sacral and the root play a huge part in that because they're below those two. And if they
Mm.
have a lot of stickiness going on, then the other three spaces can't open up fully.
Yeah,
But the
definitely.
heart,
Yeah, I could feel like how they resonate together because usually like having done a lot of inner work, I can feel like how they're like it's always interconnected, like solar plexus, heart, and then throat also will follow. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you know, your heart's more electric than your brain. And so, what we're doing a lot with this work is we're getting you out of the head and into the heart because when you're in the heart, your intentions and your desires that live in the heart automatically flow from your throat chakra. And when we're
Mm.
stuck in the head, what happens is we stop enjoying the actual process of communicating. And communicating is so juicy. Like it's how we interact with the world. There's the saying, how you do life is how you do relationships, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if we're not enjoying communication, we're missing a big part of what is pleasurable in this experience.
Gosh, I definitely see. Gosh, I love that you say it that way because I can really see myself. You know, when I was telling you that I used to rush things, this is when I was so in my head that it was like almost, oh my God, I have a package to deliver. Oh my God, what do I do? Blah, blah, blah. You know, like trying to really
Yeah.
throw it at the person so that I could really fit that in. And it felt really uncomfortable from the head. But it's so true that because there are moments I'm like, whoa, that was in the flow and people listen to me. How is that possible? Well, I was speaking from the heart, like being super inspired. And I feel like also the topic we talk about, like it's time also that we own what we really like to speak about. As you said, you know, like I'm also more like of the okay in between extrovert introvert, but I hate the small talks. I really don't like that, unless it's like with super like cool friends and very close friends where you know there is this connection that makes for the rest.
Mm.
But yeah, and this is when I will tend to lose my voice just because I'm not interested in the end. And I feel like maybe part of owning our voice and just tell me what you've like a reflection on that, but is also to own who the fuck we are and what we really like to speak about and say when we're not interested.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
nah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also knowing who you are and what your story is. A lot of
Hmm.
the leaders and entrepreneurs that I work with, a big part of marketing is storytelling. You know, you attract your soulmate clients through really one of the biggest tools that you have in your business is your story. And in the age that we're in now, even big businesses and brick and mortar businesses are realizing the importance of humanizing their brands. And so what they're doing is
Hmm.
they're bringing CEOs onto platforms like Instagram and they're making a personal brand with their CEOs because they're understanding how everything is about humanizing now. And so our
Hmm.
stories help humanize our brand and business. But what happens with women is that often they don't own even their story. They don't know how extraordinary they are. They think that they've just lived a blase, non interesting life and their story doesn't matter for anything compared to the next. And so, even telling that in a way that is just like apologetic and not in ownership
Crazy. It goes
is
so
useless.
deep. It
Yeah,
goes so
it's
deep.
useless.
Yeah.
And
So
that's and
deep.
it's not just through the spoken word, it's through copy, it's through messaging, you know, it's through making the post, writing about on your website, like it flows through. Your voice is attached to your messaging and your mission. So
Hmm.
again, it comes from inside. And if there's any lack of ownership anywhere, like even in your successes, if you've written a book, tell me you've written a book. If you know that you're an expert at something, I want to hear that you're an expert at something. Why? Because I might want your help. Like,
Exactly, exactly.
yeah,
And then those person are like, No, but you know, it's just. I know.
Oh no, they're just
Don't say that.
women, yeah. Or I was at do you know the publishing company Hay House?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't? Louise Hay, right? Um, I was at there. I went to attended a 3-day workshop, a 2-day workshop there, and it was interesting because what I noticed, they have like a question time. You could they had like 4 moments of question time, so they had microphones at both sides of the room, and you could queue up and you could ask a question. And what happened is people came up and they came up with their book ideas. And a lot of the time, what was coming up was they were almost asking for permission for them to write about this topic that they wanted to write about. And what that came across as, having known the work that I know, is that they felt like they weren't the authority on the topic that they want to talk about. And so one of Hay House's biggest messages in this 2-day event was, you're the authority on your experience.
Hmm.
And that is why people will come to you. And that is why your message and your mission matters, right? So you've got to bring your authentic voice forward. And whilst you're doing that, know that you are the authority on what you're bringing forward. Otherwise, it wouldn't flow through you. And I think a lot of women struggle with the I'm not expert enough feeling and thought. Like, who am I to talk on this topic? Or who am I to believe I've led a life that could inspire someone else?
Yeah.
For
Hmm.
me, so the space that I've come from, I was a yoga teacher, teaching for like £20, £25 an hour, going from studio to studio, gym to gym. This was 6 years ago. Never ever thought I would do business, entrepreneur, like anything like that. I just quit the acting career.
Hmm.
And the reason why, when I got the call and the call to step into leadership and do my coaching business, the reason why it worked right from the very beginning is because I would go into the yoga studio and I would share my story. And at the end of class, I would share my program. And I would constantly share, share, share. And I didn't have a bit, I don't, still don't have a big community today. I didn't have the Instagram following. I was just in a room full of maybe like 8 to 10 people. And every single time I shared my voice. And because of that, I started getting more coaching clients. I started making more money every month, going up to 4K, 5K, 6K, 7K. Now it's 10, 20K. Like, the sharing of your voice is the biggest tool in your business, and your story is the biggest tool. So working on
Hmm.
that and making sure that's flowing through you. And it doesn't matter what business you're in, even if you're not a service provider or a coach, you can inspire, you can teach your kids through storytelling if you want to. Yeah. But it's just, for connecting deeply with people, storytelling is essential.
Yeah, definitely. Like when we were young with my sister, my dad, like both my parents actually, they would come up like one, there would be one in one evening and the other one the next one, and they would like just invent stories, like play with their imagination and invent stories. And it's so true. It was like such a great, like most beautiful leverage for learning as well and get some lessons about life. And I also want to because we start to speak more of the solutions as well. Like, would you have one tool, recommendation, advice, or a few of them on how women and men as well can liberate their voice?
Yeah. Yeah. So usually it's a combination of things. I mean, and again, this is the method that I take my clients through. It's doing the mindset work, overcoming those subconscious blocks. And we do that by journaling. So journaling is a great way. So I actually have a prompt book that, if any of your listeners want to dive into these 5 root blocks, I have a prompt book that I can send out for free. So if they message me on Instagram
Amazing.
with the word, I don't know, root block, let's say root block, I can send them that for free, and it takes you through each category with a series of prompts. So that's one place to start. But somatically, and I know you know the importance of somatics because you work with energy, we do
Hmm.
have to get into the body. And so somatic exercises that are clearing shame and fear. And then on top of that, the voice education and the technique and knowing how to strategically speak and communicate is like the final piece of it. So you've got the energetics and the vibration work, which is what I really call energy psychology. That's when you're getting somatically into the stuff in the body,
Hmm.
and all the feelings and thoughts that are connected to that. The mindset, the subconscious things, the subconscious blocks, and the actual voice technique. And underneath all that is the embodiment work, practicing to become it, and nervous system regulation, like training your nervous system to actually be able to hold more and to be able to hold space. So if I think back to my career as a professional actress and singer, like even when I was a kid, I was not like the thought of being a leading role didn't come naturally to me. It wasn't something that I thought I'd be super comfortable with being in the spotlight. It was something that I don't know, maybe I loved a challenge back then. And I just thought, I'm fed up of hiding behind people. I want to come through and I want to find my voice and I want to take up space and I want to be the leading role. Like I was also very competitive, very, very competitive. And so if I hadn't have done that and I hadn't become very well practiced at being center stage, there's no way that I would be here doing what I'm doing today. Like
Yeah,
the
definitely. I can see the connection. Yeah.
yeah, the confidence, the clarity. And obviously, we live in times where it's all about visibility on social media. If you're running a mission, if you're running a business. And so that's
Yeah.
the stage.
Also, like connecting, like right now, I'm going a bit less on social media and going more offline. But obviously, it's
Yeah.
still the
So
same thing. It's just a different stage, and we still need
this
to
is
share
it.
our voice and yeah, and our stories.
And I guess by you going offline, maybe you're networking. Would you say you're
Not
networking in person?
completely offline. Otherwise, I
Yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
be doing here like this thing. Networking, yeah, or just like when I meet people, daring to say what I do, and really owning it.
Yes.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
changed a lot. Yeah.
And this is the thing. The reason why speaking to the frequency of your work and knowing your value is so important is because conversations can always turn into conversions.
And they
Always.
do. They do. I had that
Exactly.
experience already. I'm like, okay, that works.
And I say like let's because sales is a whole thing. If you can't hold the frequency of your voice with your work, selling is going to be very, very hard and you're not going to have very successful discovery calls and, actually onboarding people. But also we're selling all the time. And that's really reframed to we're sharing all the time. And we're not sharing, like the focus shouldn't be on, oh, I'm selling my program and I've got to ask for £5,000 or I've got to, no, the intention of sharing is like, I have a product or a solution that is right for you. And I'm going to scream about this because you need to hear that it's over here and this is going to serve you. So it's actually of disservice if we do not share and sell our value.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And also, like, because I feel like we're gonna get slowly to an end and to round it up, if you have like really one main advice, recommendation, something that really helped you on your journey to owning your voice, what will that be besides
Oh,
working
gosh.
with you?
Yeah, just one, just one.
Just one. The one nuggets they can really take and already start to apply in their lives.
This is such a hard question because there isn't
I
just
know.
one thing. It's such a combination. But I think for sure, I mean, these 5 root blocks for sure are going to really start that journey of looking at the voice in a whole new way and understanding exactly where your specific blocks are because it's different for everyone.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So being prompted through actually exploring these 5 root blocks and what each one looks like for you. I'd say that
Yeah, basically just do the work.
do the work,
Do the
do the inner
work.
work. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
there's one last thing that I haven't spoken about, but it's the connection between the vagina and the voice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so funny. That was actually in Bali because we spoke about Bali right before jumping into this
Yeah,
episode. This is in Bali in a women's circle, talk about connections, that I learned
yeah.
that the vagina and the throat are looking very similar. This is so
They work in
crazy.
the same way. They look anatomically very, very similar. And they both want to open. They both want to open up to the world. And we create through both spaces. So, and if we're looking at the word cervix, it comes from the Latin word neck. So again, like the similarities are real. And the way that we want to connect to both of these spaces is understanding that if I am closed off in one of these spaces, it's going to impact the other because they are both the connecting portals to the outside world, which means in your relationships, if you are not sexually expressing your truth or even allowing yourself to make sound or to open your mouth, like your mouth wants to open when you're in the midst of, building up to an orgasm. Your voice wants to sound because it wants to release that energy. So deepening that connection between these two spaces is also really, really helpful in unleashing your throat chakra and unleashing your voice.
Gosh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that last bit.
Yeah,
And that
juicy.
could go for a full new episode. Maybe I will come you another time to speak about that. This is so interesting.
Happily. Yeah, it's a big topic.
Yeah, it is a huge topic. I feel like we could go on forever, but I feel we're going to stop it there. And
Yeah.
one last thing, how can people tune in with you, connect with you, work with you? What do you have up in the moment, at the
Yeah.
moment?
So the best place to find me is on my new Instagram page, which is at I am Ali Martin. And that's ALYMARTYN. And currently, with the voice work, I have a program called Own Your Voice. And that is in one on one format. This is an 8-week journey. Because it's one on one, it's personally tailored to you. So the people that have gone through this program, they've been TEDx speakers, they've been multi-business owners, they've been coaches that want to bring their mission forward. Like, it's different for everyone, but this is where we go through the whole ins and outs of voice ownership, whether it's in your business or your life. So that is currently what's open. I am to be opening soon another container, which is very much focused on the quantum aspect and really pouring out, how do I say it? It's like the focusing on the frequency and the mystic side of the voice and really using that in business and life. And it's going to be targeted at people like coaches and people that have a real magic to bring to the world and they want to make impact. So that will be coming out soon. But if you find me on Instagram, that's your best place. I launch everything there and I share everything there. And again, with the prompts for these 5 root blocks, please feel free to message me the word root block, and then I'll send you that journal prompt book. It's really amazing. It's something that I give to all my clients at the beginning of their journey. So happily we'll send that your way.
That's amazing. I feel I'm gonna message you on Instagram just to get that as well.
Yeah, feel
This is so
free.
powerful. Yeah, I will. Okay, amazing. That was such a pleasure, an honor to have you here. I really enjoyed our discussion. So, I don't have
Thank
the
you for having
words.
me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm really, really, really happy. And yeah, let us know as well, you listening, how it lands for you, how you feel after. If you have any questions, please, please feel free to reach out. Um, Share your voice, as we say.
Yes.
This also
Yes.
goes with like writing to us, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm, mhm.
Mm-hmm. And actually, on that note, Marine, like, know that I just want to hone in, like, there is not anything that it's not about being the perfect communicator. I know I speak very fast when I'm passionate. I know that there are days where we have to work with the hormonal cycle as well,
Mhm.
where you are brain fog or you can't actually find the word. Like, your communication is really impacted by your cycle. And so don't hear this podcast and think, oh my gosh, I need to be perfect. I need to be like Oprah in the way that she speaks. Like, it's a journey, and it's about just getting more conscious around how you're using your voice and how you can attract with your voice.
Oh gosh, I like how you dropped this one like huge piece of gold, like just right by the end. I love that. I love that so much. Yeah, in the end, it's about owning who we are and feeling just okay, embracing
Yeah.
our voice, how it is right here, right now. Mwah. This is, I feel like, when there is less resistance,
Yeah.
this is when the free flow is coming. Okay, beautiful 1 hour of podcast. I'm gonna be happy with the edition. Nice. I say goodbye, my love. It was a pleasure, and I see you another time. Ciao, ciao.